Everyone can hear me? Okay. So welcome to our first medical device webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been working hard on creating the regulatory enrollment process for medical devices, and we would like to share and go through the steps, how to create them, and also through the slides, how to send submissions with the regulatory enrollment process. So before I dive into my presentation, I just would like to give you a little bit of housekeeping items. So for the recording, as you can see, already started, and because when we create the file is very large in size, so we will be emailing every single participant with details how to access the recording. We will not be able to send it via emails, okay, but there will be instructions how it will be provided to the participants of this webinar. And also, regarding the Q&A, so we will be holding a Q&A session at the end of the presentation and the demonstrations. And please use the Q&A. There is a little Q&A tab on your screen, so you can put your questions right there. We have the medical device team here who will be sorting out, and we will try to reply to as many questions as possible at the end. And also we received some pre-questions from you, and we will try to go through as much as possible at the end of the presentations, okay? So my name is Irina, and I work, and I have my team here. We work in the Resource Management Directorate, and we're responsible for the management of the Regulatory Enrolment Process XML files, and also for the electronic gateway. And as I mentioned, we also have the medical device staff here, who, as you may know, are responsible for anything else from screening, approving the medical devices. Okay, so I will now go through the slides. So as of, just need to make sure that this is actually working. I need to click on it. Yes, it is. Okay, so why are we doing the regulatory enrollment process? So the regulatory enrollment process actually facilitates the common intake process across all business lines. So this is not only for medical devices. We have 6 business lines, and 4 of them are already using the regulatory enrollment process, and it is mandatory for them. Now the 5th one is the medical devices, and then the 6th will be just the clinical trials. Okay, and uses web-based templates. So we are actually replacing the PDF and the Word application forms in your submissions with the XML files. And working with XML files, it actually enables the receipt of the submissions through the gateway. But mainly, it's not really just, to get the submissions through the gateway, but it also automates the whole process once we receive the transactions through the gateway. So we're doing an automated validation where we're checking validation errors and also things that are in your submissions. And also we importing the submissions to our viewing tool. And at some point, we will also populate metadata into other tracking system at later time. Okay, so this is the REB purpose. Now, important steps before you actually can start submitting through the gateway your submission or application. So first you need to obtain the electronic gateway ID. Okay, then you need to have your company ID. Then after you need to have your dossier ID, and you need to create your RT file and the application information file. And then you just validating your transaction before sending it through the gateway. And then you need to verify the acknowledgement messages that yes, it was successfully sent to Health Canada. So I ran through these steps a little fast, but we will go through each of them separately. So first one is the electronic gateway. Okay, so the electronic gateway is a secure system. It is very robust. It's been in use with Health Canada since 2016. FDA has been using it since 2006. And we actually getting all pharmaceutical submissions, veterinary submissions, biologic, even some clinical trials, master files. So getting everything is through the gateway. It is also mandatory for the 5 product lines. Okay, so currently, so we now call it like a legacy gateway. So there is 2 ways to actually send transactions through the gateway. You either using the desktop application, so that's the WebTrader interface, or you can use, and some companies prefer to have a AS2 gateway to gateway setup. But majority of the industry is using just a simple WebTrader application. Now, all the sign up for the gateway is managed by FDA. So this was an agreement between the 2 countries signed by back then by our Prime Minister, and it is following the RCC contract. And yes, all the information how to actually sign up are in the link in the presentation. It's a very simple sign up. You need to have your letter of repudiation in place. You need to have your certificates. And recently, FDA developed a very user-friendly portal that will just, go step by step with you step by step on what you need to do in order to create your gateway account. And there's also a very useful checklist, and you can just go through the checklist and see what is the next step after you initiated the creation of the account with FDA. Now, I would like to also mention that FDA is working on upgrades, upgrading the current gateway to a next-gen gateway, which actually is currently under testing. So we've been testing it for the last 2 months. We had wave 1, we completed wave 1 in July, and we just completed with industry wave 2 just last Friday. And FDA is going through the results of the UAT, and there will be a decision made when the next gen will be rolled into production. It's most likely looking into January. So all the information on the next gen gateway, it is available also on the FDA's website. So if you start with WebTrader, at some point you will need to hop into the next gen gateway. Okay, so that was next gen related and current gateway related information. Now, company files. So we will be demonstrating the creation of the company file, and every company must have a company ID, and you will receive the company ID through the company template. So the template is used to obtain your company ID, but also in the future to amend any company information or address or contact information. So if you already have a company ID, then there's no change and there is no change in the company information. This step is not required. And after completion of the template, you need to attach the draft CEO XML file to the email, and you will need to send it to the email address that is actually associated with the medical device licensing generic email. So you will be sending it to medical device directorate. But we will go through the detailed creation of the company template, and once we receive the file on our side, what happens is that medical device directorate looks at your information, and in a case of new company creation, they will be sending you in return a final company XML file with your company code. And in the future, if you have any changes to make, as I mentioned, address changes or contact information changes, then you will be using that final CO XML file. You will pop it into the template and you will be creating a draft one. So that just very quickly on the CO, but as I mentioned, we will go through the step-by-step presentation or demonstration of the CO form. Then the next one is the dossier ID. So again, before sending submissions through the gateway, you need to obtain your dossier identifier. And for this one, you're using another template. So it's called the dossier ID request form. And again, in order to send the dossier ID request form, you must have your company ID. And once you fill out the mandatory fields on the dossier ID request form, you just click on generate, and it will actually be sent to, again, Medical Device Directorate via email. And once they looked at the dossier ID information, they will create in our internal system the dossier ID, similarly to the company ID, and then they will reply back to your email and they will provide you the dossier ID. And again, we will go through the step-by-step process of how to create the dossier ID when we demonstrating the form. So these two forms, just before I continue, so just to go back, the company XML file and the dossier ID request form, these should be always done or must be always done outside of the gateway. These ones should never come through the gateway, and they have to be handled outside of the application. Then after you received your company ID and your dossier ID, you can proceed to creating the regulatory transaction template or your XML file. So there are two that you will be putting into your application. So the first one is the regulatory transaction. So we will be also demonstrating how to create the RT file. And just a note is that this RT file is required with every single transaction that you're sending through the gateway. So every single your initial or your responses. So we will go through the steps how to create your RT. And then the manufacturers must also create the application template, and that one is only required with a subset of transactions, and the list of exact submission types when you have to provide the AI, the application information XML file, is outlined in the REP guidance document. So that one should not come in with every transaction through the gateway. And just a reminder, as I mentioned, so both these templates, the RE template and the AI template, they both require the company ID and the contact IDs and the dossier ID on the templates. And these templates generate, again, XML files, and they have to be sent as part of the regulatory package through the electronic gateway. So in my next slide, I will just go through what is the current process and what is actually REP. So in the current process, some that already participate in pilot or jumped on the REP, they're using the REP, but many of you may still using the current process, the non-REP. So you're transmitting through via email or on CD, DVD to the Medical Device Directorate. You're using the whole list of application form, any that is applicable to you, either a Word document or PDF. So this is the non-REP process. And with REP on the right side of the slide, so the transmission method changes from email or FedEx or Purolator, whatever you're using for your CD, to secure electronic gateway. Then outside of the submission, we are handling company information, that's the CEO, and then also outside of the transaction, we handling the dossier ID, management of the dossier ID, and then inside of the submission, you're providing the RT file and the AI file. So you also see a little note. So for the CEO, replaces the company details captured on every application form. So the reason why we actually moved out the company information, so we don't need to actually go and evaluate your company information every time that you send a pre-market application or post-market application. Now the dossier ID, so this one is a new form, and internally we always had this process. The dossier ID was always required for our viewing tool. It was just not known to the industry. So in the eyes of the industry, this is a brand new form, and it is a requirement for our viewing tool when we processing submissions. Now the RT and the AI, so these two are actually replacing your application form, and they capturing details like what is your application? Is it a device or it is a device. What kind of device is it? And all the information that we will demonstrate through our demonstration process. Okay, so that was a little comparison of the current and the REP process. Now a little bit about the file naming. So the templates are creating or generating XML files, and you cannot modify them. So never rename them, never open them and add information, because our validation system will actually fail, and we will be sending you email to provide a new RT or AI file or even a CO file, because we will be not able to launch your XML file if you modified it. So yes, and it will of course cause delays in processing, and regardless if it's your company file or even a DO form, or when you send your transaction, you always need to make sure that you just copy paste the generated XML file into your submission or into the email if it's for the company file. So I will not go through the table one, but you can see that, yes, for the CEO, you have the draft and the amended, and one of my staff will be going through the creation of the CEO form. And then we also outline the final XML file. So that's the company file, as you can see, and the RT naming and the AI naming. Just again, reminder, please never rename them because it will cause delays and errors on our side when we receive them. Okay, so this is the file naming. And again, the file naming is outlined in the REP guidance document. So now when you're sending transactions through the gateway, so you will need to put your RT and the AI into a structure. So we're using Medical Device Directorate actually mandating the use of the IMDRF structure. So when you're prior to sending your transactions through the gateway, you will need to place all the files into an IMDRF structure, the TOC structure. And as you can see, the first level will always have to be the dossier ID level. And under the dossier ID level, then you just follow the IMDRF structure, and you're placing your RT and the AI file when required under the 104 section. Okay, so that's the folder structure. And there's also another note for the cover letter. Then you need to make sure that you actually have on the cover letter the name and the email contact where we can send you the validation report in a case that we receive the validation error or the validator generates a validation error during the first step of the automation process. Okay, so that's for the folder structure. Now continue with the reminders. So for the reminders, always make sure that you're using the latest template on the REP website. So when we go through the REP website, we will show you making sure that you are clear caching, because we will be updating these templates. So the latest release was done in on July 31st, and we are already planning a minor release for some WCAG compliant related information. In the future, we will be also upgrading the templates. So every time when you are, and we usually announce these upgrades on the regulatory enrollment process page. And you will see exactly in the table what is the latest version of the RT you have to use, because we are actually validating for the version of the RT file. So when we receive the submission, the first step is validation, and one of the validation rules is to making sure that you're using the correct version of the RT template. Okay, so yes, so ensure to include always the RT file in every submission coming through the gateway. You please make sure that you place it under the 104 section. And again, as was in the table, it was on the image, always make sure that the top level folder is created, and it has to be the M letter plus the 6-digit ID that will be provided to you by email. That's the second step of the regulatory enrollment process. And again, just a reminder, please make sure that you send the transaction only once. And as I mentioned, just check that you received all 3 messages. So currently with the legacy gateway, there are 3 messages. So you will get your MDN, and then you will get your AC1, and then you will get your AC2. So that's the Health Canada generated AC. Usually for the AC1 and 2, you receive them when you're sending through the web trader. Those 2 you receive fairly fast, so they come in usually within the first 5 to 10 minutes. It's also depending on the size of your submission, right? So if you're sending a submission that is 5 gigabyte, of course, that will take time. But when you sending a submission of 100 megabyte or 50 megabyte, then usually you get the first 2 receipts or messages within a few minutes. And then the third one, so that's the Health Canada AC receipt, that one takes usually up to 20 minutes, and it always depends again on the size, but also depends on the traffic, because we are considered one of the centers for FDA. And yes, depending on the traffic on the gateway, but usually it average 20 minutes to get you back the AC receipt. And if you for some reason did not receive your AC receipts, then you can email my team. We're taking care of the gateway issues. Okay, so we can go through the guidance document. So all the guidance document, well, there is actually only one, the guidance documents for a regulatory enrollment process for medical devices. It's now available upon request, and it is placed on the REP website. The reason why it is currently only available upon request, because we are going through many modifications of it, and we keeping it in this format as it is a little easier to handle the frequent updates to it. And also the guidance document is available on the medical devices webpage. Then we have the documents available on the REP website. So those ones are the templates, the dossier ID, and you will see them as soon as we start the demonstration. And then you also have the link here for the IMDRF structure, the TOC structure guidance document. And lastly, there's a guidance document for the fees for the review for medical device license applications. Okay, and now for the links for the regulatory enrollment process. So the first one, as I mentioned, is actually the main REP website. So when you scroll down a little bit on that REP info page, you will see the table, and that table actually outlines the versions of the RT that we require in your submission or application. Then when you click on the main link, that will bring you to the index page. And on the index page, you actually have the CO link, you have the DO link, the dossier ID link, and then of course the RT template link and the AI template link. Also, this page has the reminder that you need to make sure that you're caching, making sure that you get always the latest version of these templates. And that brings me, I believe, to my last slide. So just contact information. So if you have anything regarding the review, screening, processing of your medical device application, that one continues to be managed all with the medical device directorate. So feel free to email them. And then when you have any technical issues with your templates or gateway, or you get any validation errors, that would be our team eReview at Health Canada. Okay, so that actually conclude my presentation of the slides, and we will start our demonstrations. So first we will go through the CO form, and then that will be my colleague Amanda, and then I will take over to do the DO and the RT, and lastly it's gonna be the AI form that will be done by Connie.
Hey.
Thank you.
Just take over. Just quickly, Johnny, if you could put, oh, there you go, never mind, it worked. Okay, so before we head into the CO, just to kind of give a bit of visualization to what Irina was trying to talk about with the REP information page. This is the REP information page, the summary table that she was discussing. And the links to the index pages for the different product lines. So you'll want to choose the medical devices, and that'll bring you to the index page for medical devices. They look very similar, the PharmaBio and other index pages. So make sure that it says for medical devices if you're finding this by Google. And then go to the CO template. So this is what most of the templates look like from the get-go. You'll have the title, links back to the REP page, your privacy notice and security disclaimers. We encourage you guys to read through these before using the templates. Every template will have a set of instructions. These are more like help texts than step-by-step instructions, and how you can access them is either you can read through them one by one, or when you reach a field or a section that has a footnote, you can click on the footnote and it will give you a little bit of extra information on that field or section. So moving on to the load company enrollment file section. This choose file button is for, you won't need this when you're first starting out, when you're first using this template for the first time. However, when you have received your finalized CO file back from Health Canada, this is the file, the button that you would use to take your file and load it back into the template to be able to see your company identifiers and your contact IDs. Another thing that I want to let you know about is that, like Irina said, if you put in a file that is not generated from this template, a different XML file from a different template, I don't know why you would, but an Excel file, anything like that, that's a different file type, it'll give you an error message. It won't load into the template. Another thing to note is if you open the an XML file in, for example, Notepad, and you're seeing the code and you've decided to make an edit to the CO file outside of the template, because for whatever reason, if you try to load that back in, or you try to send that to Health Canada, we're going to receive an error message. We're not going to be able to load this into the CO template, and you're not going to be able to load this into the CO template. It's going to give you an error message. Before we actually start filling out the form or going through these fields, one thing to note is that there are a bunch of required fields, as you can see. If any of these required fields are blank, you won't be able to save an XML draft. You'll get a list of errors that you'll be able to click on the links, and it will bring you to the empty field or missing information so that you can fill it out. And only once all of these errors are cleared will you be able to create your draft. So moving on to the regulatory company enrollment section, you're going to start by seeing 3 fields that are grayed out. You are not able to edit these fields yourselves. When you're first starting out and this is your first fresh CO file that you're creating, the enrollment status will be new. When you receive your finalized CO company file back from Health Canada and you load it back in, it'll say final, and there will be a date generated for when the final CO was generated. You'll also only see this company identifier field filled in once the company identifier has been assigned. The next field are any ownership of licenses being transferred. So you'll click no if you're not transferring ownership of licenses, and you'll click yes if you are. It's important to choose. Obviously, you have to, but it's important to choose yes if there are, because at the bottom, there's a new section that will appear dependent on that you can then input all of your impacted licenses. And if there's a new regulatory correspondent, then you'll be able to put their information as well. So for our purposes, just for now, we're going to leave it as yes. So for address information, you're going to want to put your legal company name and address. If it changes, you're going to want to obviously update that with Health Canada. For company representative information, you're able to put in as many company records as you need. So you can fill out this information, save your contact, and then again and again add contacts until you're done. The contact identifier fields for each of those records will be blank until they're assigned by Health Canada, and the contact statuses will be new. And once it's returned by Health Canada, they will be set to active. And I will actually show how to add these in just a second. Once you've added in company representative records, you'll be able to designate a renewal contact and designate a finance contact. From the records that you've entered above, this dropdown will populate. So if you've entered in 3 representatives, you'll be able to see 3 names from these dropdowns, and you'll be able to choose who is your renewal and who is your finance contact. For the company administrative changes section, if there are licenses being transferred, you'll want to put all of those affected licenses into this section. It's a little bit of a finicky field. Just in case, I'll just do a little bit of a demo on this field particularly, just because if you don't fill it in or copy and paste in the right way, you might end up with only partial numbers or extra zeros or not necessarily sending the right numbers in. So one thing to note is that this field will only accept 6-digit numbers. So if you put in a 5-digit number, it will add a leading 0. If you put in longer, it will only take the last 6 digits. It will cut off the first digits. So if you have extra digits that accidentally get put in the middle, you're going to end up with a completely different license number. So if you don't notice and don't correct it, you'll be sending the incorrect number to Health Canada. So something to just keep in mind. If you're copy and pasting a long list, you'll want to separate the license numbers with commas or spaces. So commas or spaces, and then if you click out, it will reorder them, add the leading zeros, cut off the extra number that wasn't supposed to be there. You'll want to make sure that your list is correct prior to obviously copy and pasting it in. If you're using it from an Excel spreadsheet, you'll want to keep the list vertical and copy it in like so without spaces below, and it will do the same thing. If you have a heart, if you press enter at the end and there's an extra zero, just remove it. It's okay. One thing you don't want to do is have a list that has a bunch of paragraph spaces in between. Let me just show you quickly. Sorry. Like so, with these spaces, because you're going to end up with a list with many zeros, lines and lines of zeros. And if you send that off to Health Canada, it's just going to be really hard for them to deal with. It might delay things a little bit. So just, it would help us out a lot if you could just like remove them if that happens. So that's basically the all impacted license field. If there is a change to the regulatory correspondence name and address, you would click yes. If that company that is your new regulatory correspondent already has a company identifier, this is where you would enter it and the new contact name. If the contact is also known to Health Canada, you would help us out and put in the contact identifier. If not, and you've just entered it in above, you can just put the contact name and it is fine. Okay, so for now, I'm going to show you how to send off your draft to Health Canada. So it's important to always clear your cache, refresh the page. You don't want to be entering information and then choosing a file and putting it on and loading it on top of other information. It could just create bugs. So better to always start with a fresh CO template. So one of the things also I wanted to note here is that once you've loaded a file, you'll get the file is loaded successfully message. And also you won't be able to, for the same reasons I just mentioned, you won't be able to choose another file until you refresh the page. So the button will be there and prompt you. So this is what the file looks like, fully filled out as a draft with the multiple contacts that are filled in that are set to new. We've got our renewal contacts and finance contacts designated. And for our purposes, since it's the first time, we said no to ownership of licenses. Then when it's all filled out, you're going to save your draft. It'll go to a local folder on your workstation. I have mine set to download. So wherever your folder settings, whatever your folder settings are, that's where it will be. And then at that point, you can submit to Health Canada. So this button does not automatically submit it. When you click it, don't worry, you're not actually leaving the page, just in case. But it will open somewhere. Oh, that's why. 1 second. My Outlook was closed. Apologies. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. It will open a draft email if you have your email set up that way. If you don't have your an email service set up or configured this way to open, like Outlook or some other service, you can create your own draft from the information that it will appear below after you've hit submit to Health Canada. So pretending that you've sent off the email to Health Canada for, oh, I forgot one thing. you need to attach your CO file to this email. It's not automatically attached. You have to go and find it in your files, and you have to attach it and then send it off. So pretending that we've sent off our draft to Health Canada and, a week or so has passed and we receive our final CO file back from them. We will take that file received by email and load it back into the template to be able to view it. If you try and just click on it and open the file, all you're going to see is a bunch of code. You need to put it back into the template. So you'll see your files loaded successfully. And you'll see now, again, like we spoke about, or I spoke about, that the enrollment status is final, the date that it was generated, and now you have your company identifier for Smith Medical. You also have your company representative IDs. So Amanda Formica's company identifier will be different, obviously, than Guy and Jasmine. And you'll need these company IDs, the company ID and contact IDs for when you fill out your the subsequent forms. So again, let's pretend that maybe 6 months has passed and now we are needing to update company information with Health Canada. You would load again the file into the template. This is also a new button that wasn't present prior. So you'd hit Amend Enrollment and select your reasons for the amendment. So in this case, we're going to choose changes to company representative information and other. For our rationale, we're going to write in acquisition of Wilson Medical. Let's pretend. And then, are there any ownership of licenses being transferred? We're going to say yes. Oops, okay, managed to spell that wrong. Yes. Our address information is actually going to stay the same, Smith Medical, and we're going to keep the street address the same, but we're going to change our company representatives. In this scenario, we're going to pretend that Amanda Formica is no longer a representative for Smith Medical, and we're going to delete the contact. Now, it's not going to completely remove the company representative record, but what you'll see is that the contact status will be set to remove, and you won't be able to do anything with it anymore. You won't be able to discard or edit it. You won't be able to do anything. And when it's received by Health Canada, they're going to see, oh, it's going to be removed. They're going to take it out of our systems, take this contact out of our systems. And then when you receive your final CO back, it won't be listed here anymore. Another thing that we're going to do is we're going to change Guy's information. We're going to make a revision. So we're going to say that his phone number changed. And then to save this information, we're going to click Revise Contact. Again, it's going to flip closed, but if you open it again, the contact status is set to Revise. And that will be an indicator to Health Canada that something has changed in this record. Jasmine, there's nothing going to be changed for her, but we're going to add a new record. Ted Brooks. I'm going to say that his language is French. He's a admin assistant, let's say. His phone number. And we're going to give him his email. Smith. Save. And once again, his contact status is set to new and he has no contact identifier yet. Because we said that there are going to be transfers of licenses, We're going to add a couple of licenses here. And we're going to say no to a new regulatory correspondent because we're going to pretend that it hasn't changed. And then we're going to save our draft. And once again, we're going to send that off to Health Canada after submitting to Health Canada. Pretend I did it. And then we're going to wait a week and refresh the page. So we've now received our final CO back from Health Canada again, and we're going to take it and we're going to drag and drop it this time into the template. The enrollment status is back to saying final. We got a new date generated. It's up to date. This is really important to keep track of as well, because if you have multiple CO files in your folders, you're going to want to always choose your latest date generated, and that's how you know that that's the most up-to-date information that you have with Health Canada. You'll see that Amanda Formica's information or record has been removed. Guy's record is now back to active, and so is Ted Brooks's. So that pretty much concludes our demonstration of the CO. If you have questions, again, put them in the Q&A. We'll address them at the end. And I'll pass this off to Irina again to discuss the DO and the RT form.
Okay. Yep, I'm back. I think all is good. Okay, I just need to share my screen because I was focusing on Q&As. Okay, so share this one. All good? Okay, so I'm just going back to, sorry, I'm just moving my screens. Okay, so we continue with the DO process, and again, starting from the same the main REP website, so where we actually started with the CO demonstration. So if you scroll down, you just go to retrieve your templates under the index page. So that's right here. In addition, I just wanted to also show you what we mentioned is that the main REP website is also linked on the medical devices guidance document website. It's right here, and it's the last one. It's in alpha order, so it's the last one. So if you click on REP, it brings you to the last section. And if you click on the REP enrollment process, it actually brings you to the main REP page. And again, you will get to the template just by clicking on this link. So once you have, so we're still outside of the regulatory transaction. So once you received your company ID, then you proceeding to the dossier, requesting your dossier ID. So the company ID, as Amanda mentioned, it applies to only new companies, right? If you do not have a company ID, or if your company informations are not changing. So then if you have it all, then you just proceeding to your dossier ID. There's nothing to do with the company file. Okay, so the dossier ID, it's a very simple, actually it's a HTML form. It's not an XML file. And this was because we just wanted to make sure that this process actually goes smoother, and that there is no back and forth on this one. We're doing everything via email. We are not doing anything through the XML files. And yes, for the CO, yes, you're submitting it through the email, but this one is it's a little different template. It's a HTML. So okay, so I'll actually have to go back to the, I'm actually under the human vet. Just a second, need to go for the medical devices. Yeah, multitasking here. Okay, so to request a medical device dossier ID, so you will need to put all your company IDs, what you received from the medical device directorate when you sign up with your CO. So let's say I'll just put here everywhere just for the quick demonstration. And again, similarly to the CO form, you actually have notes next to it, and it actually gives you information how you get a certain ID, and also it's actually every field outlines if it's a required field. You have to put information in it. If it's not a required field, I believe on this form, yes, so there's additional text, then it would be just an optional field. Okay, so you first put your IDs as received from the medical device directorate. Then device class, again for this for the REP, it's either class 2, 3, or 4. So let's say I pick the class 4. And then what is your regulatory activity type? What is it that you're going to send us in your first transaction? Okay, so let's say you're putting you are requesting a new license, and then so for the license number, of course, if you don't have your license number, then in that case you're just gonna put zeros, because of course you haven't received it. In a case where you, let's say, picking minor change or a license amendment, then you should already have your license number. In that case, you will put your license number received from Health Canada. Okay, and then name of the device. Let's say I'm just gonna put a test here. So you know what is the name of your device, and then the license application type. Is it single device system, test kits, or for just demonstration purposes? I'm just gonna pick the first one. As I mentioned, every single one of them has a little notes field. So if you click on them, then you will see what is a little help text that goes with every this number. And here it's actually mentioned that yeah, for the license number, or and if you click back, it just brings you back to the top of the form. Additional information, if there anything that you need medical device directorate to know about your dossier, and primary contact. So here you need to put your name, and then language of correspondence, phone number. It's everything required, just in a case we need to reach you. Yeah, the phone extension, that's an optional field, so that one is not required. And of course, your email address, because we will be using this email address to actually to give you as a reply to give you the dossier ID. And for the alternate contact information, so these are all optional. Some companies wish to receive back the dossier ID to more than one person, and therefore this is optional. So you may or you may not need to fill it out. That's really up to your what is your case. And then if you put here the email of the second person, then we will send the dossier ID to both contact the primary and the secondary contact. .ca. And it's a very simple form. As I mentioned, you just hit submit, and this form, it's a HTML, will be sent to the device licensing to the medical device bureau. They will see all the information, that they will verify our internal databases, making sure that all your IDs are correct. And then as a reply to your email, they will provide you the dossier ID. So the dossier ID always have to be M and 6-digit. In certain, as I mentioned, we actually working with dossier IDs for many years. So many of you may already know your dossier IDs if you've been submitting to to MDD for many years and you already have your license or even license amendment, so you probably know your dossier ID. In that case, you don't need to do anything. You just continue to create your RT file. So that's pretty much the same as for the CO. If you have your CO and you know your dossier ID, you just continue to creating your submission. So now I'm going to demonstrate the RT file. So we done the CO, we done the dossier. Oh, sorry, I'm actually on the REP for that. And just give me a second, just that I'm on the correct index page. So you did your company file, you did requested a dossier ID if you don't know them or if you don't have them, and then you're proceeding to create your transaction and sending it through the gateway. So for the transaction, the RT file, it's one of those simple XML files, and as mentioned, it is actually required for every single transaction that you're sending through the gateway. And this file, you probably will not have it unless you've been sending submissions through the gateway. So first is you starting with launching a previous one. So if you already sent something through the REP process, then yes, you can actually choose the file and then you can upload your previously used XML file. Okay, and again, I just jumped right away to the RT file, but the same concept applies here as Amanda already went through it. So there's a privacy notice statement, there's a security disclaimer, and the instructions are right here. Okay. Good. So when you completing your form first time, you will need to start with, again, your dossier ID, what you received in step 2. Then for the company manufacturer, okay, so I'm just gonna use the same digit. So you actually should have all these from the CO process. Regulatory activity type, again, this applies for every time then you're submitting. Let's say you are starting the REP process with just a minor change, okay? It doesn't need to be with the license if you already have your license. And then you are sending the minor change first time for your class 4 submission. So as I go through it, it's depending on what you're clicking, different dependencies are built in the RT file. So you just need to make sure that you're following what is appearing and what is disappearing on your pick list, or what fields are required and what are only optional. So let's say if your first regulatory activity is a private label, then you can see certain fields disappeared from the pick list. So the RT template has a lot of dependencies built into it. And your transaction description is, let's say you are sending your initial private label. And again, it is for the class 4 medical device. Again, we need the name of your device, your license number. And again, as you can see here, if it's assigned by Health Canada, yes, you need to put the actual license number. And if not, then you're just going to put zeros here. As Amanda demonstrated, again, the same applies if you are missing any fields that are required or mandatory, then you will see the error messages in the list on the top of the form, or even when you are filling out the template, and let's say, you know, this one has to be a 6-digit and you just put a 5 digits, so it's giving you error messages along when you are filling out the template. Okay, so I'm just gonna put another 0 here. And again, company identifier. Okay, and then manufacturer license number, required field, and then the Excel sheet. So the Excel sheet, the device detail Excel sheet there is just drop down yes or no. And we have actually the device Excel sheet also on the index page posted, so you actually can take the and fill it out for your submission. And the last section is the fees. So if there are fees, then you have two more fields to pop up. That's the company information, the company the billing company identifier and the billing contact identifier. But if there is no fees, let's say you just providing a response to a transaction or to a submission that is under review or screening, then there are no fees and the fee section does not appear. So you generate the XML file, and so I have it on the other side. So I'll just move it on this side so you can see. So this is the generated XML file from the RT template. And when you're ready to send the submission through the gateway, you will just place this RT XML file into the folder, the IMDRFTOC folder structure under the section 104. And yes, so depends on where you are. Let's say you already been sending transactions for many years for a certain license or device, and you just hopping on with the REP, you have a submission under review and you just providing a response. You can also do that. You can just need to close the instructions. So you can just change depending on what you're providing. Let's say you have a submission under review. So it's a minor change and it's already with the medical device directorate, and you would like to start REP and you have a response to an email that was requested. You can just start using the REP process in the middle of any submission to medical device directorate, and you just place here, yes, you received an email from them, and then again you need to put the numbers. And you just generate the XML file, you place it under the 104 section, and you send your response via the electronic gateway. And next time when you have something for the same dossier, rather than creating your RT file from scratch, you can just choose a file, and then you can just upload the same file. And again, you can upload the same file. However, what you need to do here, you need to, of course, adjust the regulatory activity type. So if you send something for the private label, let's say 2 months ago or 3 months ago, and now you have a license amendment to do, then you just change your transaction, the regulatory activity type and the transaction description to what you are sending to medical devices. And let's say this time it's a licensing amendment, and then you just continue to fill out the rest of the form. And as you can see, as I mentioned, depending on what you are clicking and choosing, there is a lot of dependency built in. Here, reason for filing the amendment popped up. Let's say this is a change in the device name. And again, you need to put some rationale here. Why are you changing it for the medical device directorate? If there are fees, yes, you click on the fees, and then you click on actually add the billing contact information, and then you generate your final XML file. So the RT file again has to be provided with every single transaction, and it needs to basically have every information that is for that transaction. Okay. So that concludes the DO and the RT file. And now we're moving to the last template. That would be the application information template.
Hello, my name is Connie. I'm going to talk about the application information template. So this, as mentioned, this template is not submitted for every single transaction. It is only submitted for the initial transaction for class 2, 3, and 4, and the new application for license amendment applications, private label license application, and the private label license amendment application. But if an updated final XML can be included in the next transaction only in the cases in which there needs to be a change made to the XML file, or Health Canada has requested an updated final XML file in the form of a request for clarification. As you can see, this form is very similar to the RT and the CO, so I'm not going to go into the privacy notice statement or the security disclaimer and instructions. And we've already gone over the load the application information enrollment file. So I'm going to go to the application information section and talk a little bit more about that. So the manufacturing company identifier and the dossier identifier are the next field. So this field is obtained from filling out from the CO XML, and then this one, the dossier identifier, is obtained from filling out the dossier identifier request form for medical devices. The medical device signal audit program certification number is just a field in which you'll type in the number. And the next field is the medical devices signal audit program, where you will use the pick list to select which one is applicable for your submission. Same with the license application type and the regulatory activity type. You will pick the one that is applicable to your submission. For the regulatory activity type, there is a dependency for this one for license and license amendment. There will be one more field that will appear, but we will get into that a little bit later. Same with device class. Only one device class can be picked. You cannot pick multiple, so you have to pick a device class. And there is a dependency for class 4, which we will go into later, that will only appear when class 4 is selected. The next one we'll go to is the place of use. Place of use questions are answered using the drop-down menu for yes or no. Based upon what you answer for this question, more questions will appear. As you can see, yes has these questions. I'm not going to read them out, and no has a separate set of questions. I did want to highlight that this question in particular, does this device contain a drug? There also is additional questions if yes is selected. No does not have additional questions. For yes, in this case, for does this drug have an identification number or national health product number, for each one of these numbers that you select, another field will pop up asking for you to fill out that number. Obviously, fill out those numbers that are applicable. If there is none, then just click none and no field will pop up. Please use the free text field for the brand name and active ingredients and manufacturer. For compliance, this is a square box, so the multiple selections can be made. And in the case of other pharmacopoeia, if this is selected, there is a free text field that will appear, and please just type in what is applicable to this one. I'm going to talk about the next section, which is device history. These are not required fields, but we would like you to fill it out even so. So same for this one, as the checkboxes will appear when you click on the boxes. And then for each box that is clicked, the corresponding number field will appear. So application number, SAP number for special access, instrument order authorization will need an authorization number. Here we have the compatibility of interdependent devices. Please click on the data device for the record, and then more fields will appear. And in this case, the name of the compatible device. If you don't have one, just use the words not applicable and type it in, or cut and paste. And then if this device isn't authorized by Health Canada, you will use the drop-down menu to select yes in which case the license number field will appear, and you can answer that question if applicable, and no. Another question will appear and you'll select yes or no accordingly. If you select yes, the application number will be asked of you to fill out. If no, you can use this free text field to explain why and you have not submitted an application for this device. Do click the button Save Record. If you don't click Save Record, you will have error messages that will appear, and they will take you to which error messages, the fields that need to be filled out. If you would like to delete an entire record, just click on the Delete Record. For multiple fields, you'll have to click, you will click on the button Save Record, and then if you click on Add Record, it's for a separate entry to be done. This is the recognized standard compiled within the manufacturer of the device. As mentioned before, this field only appears for license amendment. I'm just going to go up for this to appear if you click license amendment for regulatory activity type or license, and the device class has to be either class 3 or class 4 for this field to appear. And then this is just asking a question about the declaration of conformity form, whether it complies with the recognized standard equivalent or better standards, and you'll just click yes or no to answer the question. This is the next section we'll talk about, is the device containing biological material. This section only appears when class 4 was selected as the medical device class, so that's up here. So this does not appear if you have any other classes. And here you'll just answer yes or no to the questions. There's no dependency on this question, but there is a dependency on this question. If you answer yes, many more questions will appear. You can answer yes or no, but there's no dependency on the question. This question, and then here you'll answer these: name of materials, name of compatible devices with the free text field. And then followed up, you'll answer the country of origin, and you'll pick from the pick list which one is applicable to your device. And then same with the species, you'll pick the animal that is correct. For the tissue, substance, type, and derivative, you can pick the tissue or derivative that's applicable. If you can't find one that works for you, you can select other. Another field will appear and you can type in your answer. Same with the derivative, a free text field will appear. Same idea with this one, is you must select Save Record or you will get error messages. You can also delete the record if that record is no longer what you've wanted. The last section is the priority review. You'll answer yes or no using the drop-down. If you do answer yes, there are some additional questions that are asked, and you can select whichever is applicable for you, and you can make multiple selections that are applicable. And then there are the 2 buttons for generating final XML, which you will send. If everything that's required is filled out, you will generate the final XML. And the working copy is just for you to save selections that you've made and you want to come back to it. Please do not send working copies to Health Canada. We only want final XML copies. So that is it. I will stop sharing my screen.
Now time for the Q&A.
So we'll start the question and answer session now. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Chandler. I'm the director of the Bureau of Planning and Operations at the Medical Devices Directorate. So members of my team and other members within the directorate have been working with Irina's team on the implementation of REP. So thank you so much for your patience today and for sitting through the session so far. I understand it's a lot of information and we've received a lot of questions. I'd encourage you to attend future sessions. We will be having one, as you already know, in November, but we do intend to have a few more before mandatory implementation. So we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can, and I will get going. So we've received several questions about whether the session is being recorded and whether it and the presentation slides will be made available after the session. So yes, I can confirm the session has been recorded. We will make it available after today's session and send out a link to everybody so you're able to access it. All participants, well, everybody who received the first email already did receive a copy of the slides as well, but we'll resend a copy of the slides when we send out the reminder and the links for the November session. The next question, is REP mandatory for medical devices? Not yet. Right now we're in the voluntary phase. The voluntary phase started on July 31st of this year. And we have an 18-month transition period or a voluntary phase. So REP will become mandatory in January of 2026. So during this phase, you can continue to use the existing PDF forms. However, they will no longer be accepted once we enter the mandatory phase. Moving on, we've had several questions about existing manufacturers and whether they need to complete the CO and or DO request forms. Existing manufacturers can request a copy of their CO as well as a list of their corresponding dossier IDs by submitting an email to the device licensing email account with the subject line MD REP CO request, and then insert your company ID. And this will provide you with the respective company, contact, and dossier IDs required for your subsequent submission. We've also received numerous questions about how to obtain the REP guidance document. Currently, it is available upon request by sending an email to device licensing, with the subject line request for REP guidance document for medical devices.
It was sorry to cut in, Sarah. Apologize. Yeah.
So for the guidance document is actually when you go to the main REP page or the medical device page. So when you click on request guidance document, it will actually there will be an email popping up and you just hit send and it will actually come to a e-review no reply. So you should actually receive the guidance document in a no reply email back within a few minutes. Just you need to make sure that the subject line is exactly what is written in that posting on the REP website. Yeah, so it's an automatic no reply. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay, sorry. So it was mentioned that if we already have a company identifier, we do not need to apply again. How do we start a new CO template if we have an existing identifier? If you have an existing company ID, you can request your CO XML by sending an email to the device licensing email account with your company name, company ID, and the email address where the CO should be sent. And next question, it's a good question. What is the relationship between REP and the eStar template? Will the eStar template be used for submissions in the future? So eStar is actually a submission builder tool to build applications in the IMDRF TOC structure, while REP is a web form replacing elements of the application form. So while you could consider that they could be used together, one is not dependent on the other. The next question, do we need to obtain a new company ID for REP, or can we use the existing company ID on MDAL? The answer is yes. Please use the existing company ID for CO XML requests for REP. For the CO template, can you add more than 3 representatives per manufacturer? Yes, you're absolutely able to add as many contacts under one CO as you have by just expanding that section of the template. If we already have a CESG account and company ID for pharmaceuticals or biologics, do we proceed directly to applying for a dossier ID? Company ID and dossier IDs are unique for each product line, so you would need to apply for a medical device specific company ID and dossier IDs. We received a couple of questions on this as well. Are there currently any performance standard delays with MDD sending out COIDs? I've requested my client's final COXML file, and it has been almost a month with no response despite multiple follow-ups. It shouldn't actually take more than a week to receive the CO, but we are experiencing a high volume of CO requests at the moment since the announcement of the voluntary production. So we appreciate your patience there, but please do make sure you send an email to the device licensing inbox if you are still waiting for your CO XML. Is the fee form still required for medical device license applications? The REP for drugs includes the fee information. So for devices, yes, the existing medical device license application fee form will still be required. Do we need a dossier ID for every transaction? The unique dossier ID is at the license level. The dossier ID is needed to process all incoming applications, but each individual transaction doesn't require a distinct dossier ID. The next question, is REP only for new submissions? No, REP can currently be used for all types of medical device license applications and transactions. So new applications, amendments, faxbacks, or minor change applications, etc. Over to my e-review colleagues for the next few.
So the next question is, so is WebTrader being phased out by FDA? Will the process be changing when USP goes live? Will there be training given? And if there is a date for mandatory be pushed out, given that we will need a training or another new process. So the process is exactly the same. Nothing is changing. Of course, USP, it's a cloud-based application, web browser. Of course, it's a different interface, but very similar to the WebTrader. You will attach your submission. You will definitely need to apply your signatures, and then you sending it through the next-gen gateway. And if there's going to be a training required, I'm pretty sure there's going to be video posted on the FDA's website. And they are doing now a little live demos for the pilot participants. I'm not sure if there's going to be a training, but there's going to be definitely a recording done. And will the date for mandatory be pushed out, given that we need to train? So the date will be actually decided by FDA, not so much by Health Canada, and if they will make an announcement of the mandatory gateway, most likely sometimes before Christmas, depending on the pilot results. Now, second question, I currently submit laser reports through the gateway through a tool e-submitter. And if Health Canada considered having the templates created in e-submitter. So these are two separate items, like the same as for the e-start. So we are using the REP templates that are coming through the gateway with your application. So no, there is not going to be use of the e-submitter. The question on the acknowledgement. Okay, so this was always confusing how many. So there's always 3 messages, right? So we call them messages. So it's the MDN first acknowledgement and the second acknowledgement. Right, with the next gen, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, much easier. Now it's MDN first and second. So if you have not received your second acknowledgement, means that you need to email e-review for that one, and we need to see if where the submission is actually stuck. Might be we usually following up very fast with the industry if we see anything is not coming through. But if you did not receive your if you only receive 2, then there is definitely a concern when it's the third one. Yeah. Are certificate signatures required for use of the gateway? Yes, there is a very easy, so you can actually create your own certificates using the portal. That's the current legacy gateway, and how you create your certificates, that process is very easy. Or you can go with any other third party to create your signatures, your certified signatures files. Yeah. What is the difference between the desktop? So the desktop or the online web trader, so it's actually the same thing. So it's a web so it's a web-based application. However, you need to download certain portions of the web trader to your desktop. Next one is, as a consultant, do I need separate gateway account for each company? No, you need only one as a consultant, and there is, yes, so it's only one account, and you're just sending all your, on behalf of all your sponsors with the same certificate through the gateway, only one account. Will there be a potential for practice draft to ensure the personnel are well prepared for the move? No, unfortunately, we cannot accommodate to have these practice drafts because we don't really have staff to verify them. So you will just need to hop on and you use it as is. But as Sarah mentions, we will have other webinars as well if there is need for them. Okay, I think back to you, Sarah.
Yep, thanks, Irina. Next question, will the IMDRF folder structure be available to download? It is currently available. The TOC folder structure and guidance can be found under the guidance documents section of the Health Canada Medical Devices website. The section called impacted licenses, do we have to enter the digits manually, or can they be uploaded if I have a long list? Manufacturers are able to copy and paste a list of impacted licenses into that field from their internal spreadsheets, etc. If there are updates to the contact person or additional contact persons, no change to manufacturer address, is this now completed via the CO template, or can it still be completed via email to device licensing? These changes are now to be submitted through the CO template. When entering license numbers, some of ours are only 4 digits, example 6189. We even have some licenses that are only 1 digit, I think. We still have some. Will there be a problem when adding 2 zeros? So for 4 digits or less license numbers, the leading zeros should be added at the beginning. For example, 006187. So make sure you don't put the zeros at the end, put them up front. Once a submission for a given license has been submitted through REP, is there any requirement that subsequent regulatory activities for that license continue to be submitted through REP as well? Yes, once submitted through REP, all subsequent regulatory activities need to be submitted through REP. In fact, Irina and team.
Yes, so is there a process or way to withdraw application once it is submitted? So just to clarify, so depending on what you're withdrawing, so if you made a mistake and you just submitted a transaction and you're missing something, when you're missing an RT, then my team will contact you because it will actually go to an incorrect folder and it will throw an error on our side. However, if you hit the RT and you just miss the document, so in those cases when it's a content of the submission, you need to email the medical device directorate and they will give you instructions how to withdraw that transaction, and then you can resend it. And now if you're withdrawing, let's say, a license, so this is now you withdrawing your application or a private label. So on the RT file, there is actually, and it's under the screening or review, there is actually on the drop down list, there is a transaction called withdrawal of a submission. So in order to withdraw an actual regulatory activity, you will need to provide us a transaction through the gateway with the cover letter and with the RT, and the transaction description will be withdrawal of a submission. I believe that's what it is. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. We've got time for just one final question for today. So with respect to the REP guidance document, it still needs to be requested by email, correct? Yes, at this time, it's only available upon request, though we are working towards making it available online in the future. And with that, thank you again for your time and attention, and we'll be in touch with details on the recording and copies of the presentations in the near future. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.